when it comes to Trump's morbidly obese fat ass, the fatigue is the hype, and the GOP is still firmly in Donald Trump's grip, and this may be their haunting factor. Now, it appears that the GOP establishment is pursuing one of its typically lame, quixotic attempts to see if it might be possible to oust Donald Trump from the leadership of their party, or at least they're still working hard to persuade the mainstream media to tell all those suburban swing voters that they're doing everything they can. Now, we've seen multiple articles in recent weeks making the case that Trump is weakening and that GOP leadership has taken a strong hand to the party in advance of the 2022 election. Some ambitious politicians even took to the Sunday shows to proclaim their independence of it. Now, did I mention that they were all lame? Donald Trump may have dropped to 50% support from the Republicans polled, but that would still translate into a primary election landslide. And basically, we suspect that Larry Hogan is not a serious threat to Donald Trump in today's GOP in any case. Now, according to an NBC News poll, it's basically, I don't usually follow a lot of polls, so each one is different to how they do things, and a lot of them are misskewed anyway. But according to an NBC News poll, back in the 2020 election, 54% of Republicans said that they were going to support Donald Trump, that they were going to support Trump over any Republican Party candidate, and only 38% said that they were supporters of the GOP in general. Now, going back to January of this year, just recently, the numbers are almost reversed, for 56% saying that they're supporters of the Republican Party, and 36% saying that they identify as Trump sycophants. Now, this again is a fucking problem. It's because a third of the party who consider themselves Trump uber sycophants adds up to a lot of people, and they are the most active and energized, and the majority of Republicans still like Trump and will happily vote for him in the general election anyway. Nonetheless, there are some hairline cracks in this correlation. Time magazine had recently reported that one of the little fractures in the GOP foundation is based on the vaccines because they're refusing to take them. Apparently, a lot of Trump sycophants are truly offended that he promoted the vaccines when for a while he was basically saying not to get it. And they quote one sycophant saying, "Why lose half your base over a faulty vaccine, actively being used to take away your rights?" And another saying, I pretend to love Trump, but the shit is getting intolerable. We know he wants desperately to be given credit for the vaccines that he had nothing to do with, and he wants to be given the Nobel Peace Prize that he would never get, and perhaps even grant sainthood for this great personal achievement, which he had no achievements to go on with, that he had no achievements anyway. Some of his advisors believe it's a good issue for him going back into 2024 as well, but his sycophants aren't having it, and it appears he's backed off and has joined the rights of caterwauling about mandates to cover for it. And he has prompted one of his sycophants to say after one of his recent Klan rallies that not hearing the former squatter Trump pushing the vaccines was my favorite part of last night's speech, or Klan speech for them. What's more concerning is to Trump and the Republican polling firm Echelon Insights. They released a poll that like this month, showing that the Republicans would prefer Trump over Florida Governor Ron DeSantis by 57 to 32%, and it's down from 62 to 22 in October. Now, it's still a big lead, but it's not quite the juggernaut that it was a year ago. Now, Echelon's Kirsten Soltis Anderson, basically she told the New York Times that many of the people she polled showed a shocking level of ambivalence about voting again for Trump. She said that they liked his policies, whatever the fuck they are, but are finally expressing a bit of what sounds to me like Trump fatigue after all this time. Basically, you can't like Trump's policies when he didn't have any. These numbers are inspiring headlines like the Washington Post on Sunday, which said, "A weakened Trump as some voters edge away." Now, he battles the parts of the Republican Party that he once ran on. Reporters Michael Shear and Josh Dulcie write, "The former squatter's power within the party and his continued focus on personal grievances is increasingly questioned behind closed doors at the Republican gatherings." According to many interviews with more than a dozen prominent Republicans in Washington and across the country, and including some Trump sycophants, many spoke on the condition of anonymity because there remains a significant fear of attracting what they call Trump's wrath. we look at it this way. We can see the problem with this entire thesis, right? Can't we? These people are questioning Trump's power. The people that are questioning Trump's power are still terrified of his wrath, and it seems to me that's the very definition of the power. GOP pollster Frank Luntz explains further that the real problem lies with the deflection of independents telling the Post he is still God among Republicans, which there is no God, and he's not, and Trump is not a God among Republicans, but independents don't want him to run again. They've had enough. And that's a problem for Trump. No one of either party can win without independent voters. Now, the article contends that this is all a matter of diverging any priorities that we're going through, and Trump wants to wreak revenge on the Republicans he believes have crossed him and put in place sycophants and cronies, while the Republican leaders want to find palatable candidates most able to win in November. And we would suggest that those aren't just diverging priorities; they are completely at odds with each other. And certainly Moscow Mitch seems to think so too. Now, on Sunday, the New York Times, Jonathan Martin reported on the machinations behind the scenes to topple Trump from his perch atop the Republican Party once and for all, and it's not going well for the Republican Party. Now, McConnell, who's the GOP's leader in the Senate, is having a terrible time recruiting any good candidates for the midterm, and Trump has been flexing his muscle in a number of Senate races, pushing sleazeballs, as McConnell sees them. It's anyone's guess how many of those sleazeballs will succeed in the primaries and how well they will do in any general election. Now, it's clear that Trump has lost some altitude over the past few months, and it's understandable since he's no longer in the public eye every day, and he's lost his connection to his base through social media as well. He doesn't have Twitter because it was removed. The mainstream media outlets aren't covering his Klan rallies live anymore, and he's irrelevant to the legislative sausage making that's consumed much of the political coverage from the past few months. However, it's basically, this may end up being a silver lining for him if he can allow himself to tone down the obsessive stolen election mantra, because the election wasn't stolen, and concentrate on the policies that his sycophants allegedly love so much, which he doesn't have. So degrading their political enemies and demeaning immigrants and people of color. Being out of the spotlight allows Trump to re-enter the scene and offer up something new for his sycophants, meaning fresh insults and new lies. His tedious rambling about stolen ballots, which there wasn't any stolen ballots, has its place among their list of grievances, but they need some new red meat. I don't know if he's capable of pulling himself out of his funk and doing what needs to be done, and frankly, I'm not sure it really matters all that fucking much anyway. But for all of this whispering among the establishment, good old boys, and the faint murmurs among some Republicans and independent voters, it's hard to see how he can lose if he decides to run, even if half the party just wishes he would go away, and it's the other half, the half that can't get enough of him, and that's driving the fucking bus, and they will run right over anyone who stands between them and their dear beloved Satanists. So if you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King, or you can also go to the About section on my Patreon, on my Patreon link, and donate to the Patreon link for YouTube. So yeah.